Every place has a story. Some stories refuse to stay buried. Tonight, we drive a road that has been blessed by Taoist priests, blessed by Buddhist monks, blessed by Catholic bishops. And still, it kills. If you have ever lived in Hong Kong, you already know its name. Locals lower their voices when they speak of it. Taxi drivers refuse the night shift along its curves. Truckers wear jade. Some keep a small red packet tucked above the sun visor, just in case. This is Tuen Mun Road. 18 kilometers of asphalt cut into the mountains between Tuen Wan and Tuen Mun in the New Territories. On paper, it is a highway. In practice, it is a graveyard that refuses to fill. Before we begin, understand this. Every story you are about to hear is documented in newspapers, in police reports, in the testimonies of drivers who survived, and the silence of those who did not. Tuen Mun Road opened to traffic in May of 1978. At the time, it was the longest and most expensive highway ever built in Hong Kong, a ribbon of concrete carved into the steep flanks of Castle Peak. The engineering was ambitious, too ambitious, some said. The road clings to the mountainside like a scar, with sheer cliffs on one side and the dark waters of the Rambler Channel on the other. Workers died during its construction. The exact number was never released. But old residents in Sam Shing Estate still remember the funerals. They remember the priests who came afterward asking the spirits of the dead to release the road. The priests left. The accidents began. Within its first 10 years, Tuen Mun Road earned a nickname that no highway wants. The locals called it the Road of Death. By the late 1990s, it had recorded more than 900 crashes. Hundreds dead. Thousands injured. And the numbers, the official numbers, never quite matched what the families whispered at the funeral homes. There is a particular stretch of Tuen Mun Road, around kilometer 7, where drivers brake for no reason. They cannot explain it. They are awake. The road is dry. There is no obstacle. And yet their foot moves to the brake pedal as if guided by another hand. Taxi drivers have a name for this section. They call it the pulling place, because something pulls. The steering wheel drifts. The car drifts with it. And on certain nights, in the rearview mirror, they say you can see a passenger you did not pick up, sitting very still, smiling at the back of your head. To understand Tuen Mun Road, you have to understand what lies beneath it. The road runs along the edge of Castle Peak Bay, an area with a long, unhappy history. During the Qing dynasty, this coastline was a haven for pirates and smugglers. Bodies were dumped into the sea. Bodies were buried in shallow graves along the slope. When the British surveyed the land in the 20th century, they noted entire hillsides of unmarked burials. Then came the war. During the Japanese occupation from 1941 to 1945, villagers from the New Territories were rounded up in this area. Executions took place on the very slopes that the highway now climbs. Mass graves were dug. Some were found during construction. Many were not. When engineers blasted through the rock to lay the foundations of Tuen Mun Road, they were not just cutting a highway. They were cutting through a 60-year accumulation of grief, of unfinished deaths, of names no one had spoken aloud since the war ended. The first major incident came in October of 1978, only 5 months after the road opened. A coach carrying school children lost control on a downhill curve. Witnesses said the driver was staring at something on the road, something only he could see. He swerved hard. The coach went through the barrier. The driver survived. When police interviewed him in hospital, he kept repeating one sentence in Cantonese. She walked out in front of me. She had no feet. In Chinese folklore, ghosts do not walk. They float. Their feet do not touch the ground. To say that a figure had no feet is to say quite plainly that the figure was not alive. The driver never drove again. He moved to Macau. He died, his family said, of nothing in particular, 2 years later. Over the decades that followed, the pattern repeated. A bus driver in 1990 told colleagues he saw a woman in a red dress standing in the fast lane. He swerved. 14 passengers were injured. There was no woman. There was no body. There were no marks on the road. In 2003, a minibus plunged off a flyover on Tuen Mun Road, killing 21 people. It remains one of the worst road accidents in Hong Kong's history. The driver was found to have been speeding, but survivors told reporters something the reporters did not print. They said that in the seconds before the crash, the lights inside the minibus dimmed, and one elderly passenger began to cry, very softly, and said, "She is here. She is here." After the 2003 disaster, the Hong Kong government did something extraordinary. They invited Taoist priests, Buddhist monks, and Catholic clergy to perform rites along Tuen Mun Road, together, at the same time, on the same stretch of asphalt. The ceremony was held at dawn. Incense burned. Prayers were chanted in 3 different traditions, in 3 different languages, asking the dead to find peace and leave the living alone. Drivers slowed down to watch. Cameras filmed it. The footage still exists. It did not work. The accidents continued. Within 6 months, the road had claimed 11 more lives. There is a woman in the stories. She appears in many of them. Drivers describe her differently, but certain details never change. She wears white. Her hair is long and wet, as if she has just stepped out of the sea. She stands on the inside lane, the lane closest to the cliff face, and she watches the cars come. Some drivers say she raises her hand, palm outward, as if asking them to stop. Others say she simply turns her head, slowly, as their car passes, and her eyes follow them in the rearview mirror long after she should have disappeared. Old residents of Tuen Mun believe she is one of the women executed on these slopes during the war. They say she is waiting for someone, a husband, a son, a name she can no longer remember, and every driver she stops she examines, hoping to recognize a face. When she does not recognize you, she lets you pass. When she does, that is when the accidents happen. A taxi driver named Mr. Lai gave an interview to a Hong Kong magazine in 2011. He had driven Tuen Mun Road for 32 years. He said he had seen the woman in white 4 times. The first 3 times, she let him pass. The 4th time, he said, she stepped directly in front of his taxi at 3 in the morning. He braked. He stopped. The road was empty. But in his passenger seat, where no one had been a moment before, sat an old man in a gray suit. The old man looked at him and said very politely, "Thank you for stopping. He has been waiting a long time to see me." Then the passenger seat was empty again. Mr. Lai drove home. He retired the next morning. He never explained who he was. Today, Tuen Mun Road has been widened, resurfaced, fitted with new barriers and brighter lights. The official accident rate has fallen. The government considers the problem solved. But ask a night shift driver. Ask the men who deliver fish to the wet markets at 4 in the morning. Ask the taxi drivers who refuse fares heading toward Tuen Mun after midnight. They will tell you the road has not changed. Only the way we count the dead has. If you have ever driven a road where something seemed to walk beside you, drop A in the comments below. The Archivist reads every name. Some of them I have heard before. Sleep well, if you can.